Welcome back. It's my privilege to introduce Professor Gabriela Soto Laveaga, who is going to introduce our keynote speaker. Professor Soto Laveaga also served on the planning committee and was responsible for just so much of the structure that you see up here today, along with Professor Deloria and Professor Juyan Kim. She just really had an immense imprint on this conference. So I introduce her also with a sense of gratitude and also for having gotten to know a colleague better in my time at Harvard and Radcliffe. Gabriela Soto Laveaga is a professor of the history of science in the Harvard Faculty of Arts and Sciences. And her current research interests investigate knowledge production and circulation between Mexico and India. Also medical professionals and social movements and science and development projects in the 20th century. Her first book, Jungle Laboratories, Mexican Peasants, National Projects, and the Making of the Pill, in 2009, won the Robert K. Merton Award from the American Sociological Association's section on science, knowledge, and technology. Her second monograph, almost done, Sanitizing Rebellion, Physician Strikes, Public Health, and Repression in the 20th century Mexico, examines the role of healthcare providers both as critical actors in the formation of modern states and as social agitators. She is not only almost done with a second book, she's almost done with a third. I'm not going to set up expectations, but this is a remarkably productive scholar who is really helping us rethink what science is and its geographic and cultural roots. Without further interruption, Gabriela Soto Laveaga.
Thank you so much for that really beautiful introduction. In September 2017, when Category 5 Hurricane Maria pummeled Puerto Rico, the world was introduced to Carmen Yulín Cruz Soto, who, often standing in water, sporting a baseball cap, and with white frame glasses splattered with rain, she demanded that help be brought to Puerto Rico. As hours, then days, then weeks passed, she became the firm, unwavering voice against the lasting inequity of colonialism. Yulín, as she is called, unapologetically called out and detailed the administration's failure to help. Television cameras captured not just the vast destruction of the island, but the mayor's anger. In her words, "We are dying here. I cannot fathom that the greatest nation in the world cannot figure out logistics for a small island," end quote. As the death toll surged and help was not forthcoming, she positioned herself behind a mic and declared, "I am done being polite. I am done being politically correct. I am mad as hell," end quote. If colonialism is an experiment in power, then Puerto Rico is an experiment that, as most colonial laboratories, has gone on too long. Since 1898, when Puerto Rico passed from the Spanish Empire to become part of a growing US empire, it has been an oxymoron, an essential afterthought of the United States, a strategic foothold in the Caribbean. While Puerto Ricans hold American passports, they do not hold full citizenship rights. For many Puerto Ricans, Hurricane Maria was a moment of reckoning. What does it mean to be an incorporated territory that belongs to the United States? The hurricane, however, did not make Yulín. In the same way that the storm did not define or defy the people of Puerto Rico. While the outside world may have become aware of her in 2017, she rose to fame and political power much earlier, when she defied the odds and a powerful incumbent to become the mayor of San Juan. Named one of Time magazine's 100 most influential people, she is a woman who has defied expectations since she was a small girl. Yulín grew up in Puerto Rico, but obtained her degree in political science from Boston University and a Master of Science in Public Management and Policy at the Heinz College at Carnegie Mellon University. In 1992, she returned to Puerto Rico to serve as an advisor to San Juan's mayor. A decade later, she started her first and only term in the House of Representatives of Puerto Rico. as her first term was concluding, she again defied convention and advice and decided to run for mayor of San Juan. San Juan, a city with a metro area of 2.3 million residents, had been governed by a powerfully connected politician for more than 12 years. Yulín was told repeatedly that she had neither the funds nor the connections to win. Wearing a bandana that detractors said made her look like a revolutionary, and supporters responded that, yes, it made her look like a revolutionary, Yulín took to the streets, an unprecedented campaign style declaring that el poder está en la calle, power is in the streets. Public housing, small villages, immigrants, and women became the focus of her campaign. While on the road, she explained that she was running because she wanted, quote, un San Juan para todos, a San Juan for everyone. And indeed, it was the people of San Juan who propelled her to a stunning victory in 2012. As with the people of Puerto Rico, Mayor Yulín is not allowing the hurricane to define her. The hurricane's aftermath provided an unexpected platform for her to speak out against larger themes, such as the continued US presence in the daily life of Puerto Ricans. But it is the mayor's voice and her unwavering commitment to justice and the rights of citizens that have made her an icon for post-colonial struggles the world over. I must confess that it was difficult to write an introduction for Yulín because she does not stop. In the past 10 days, for example, it was announced that she would co-chair Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign for president. Yes. A few days later, she declared that she was running for governor of Puerto Rico. All while still holding the position of mayor of San Juan, a city still very much in recovery. In closing, I want to leave you with two additional facts about Yulín that I think exemplify who she is as a person. Two images, really. One is a trailer, and the other one is a t-shirt. She works from inside a double-wide trailer and not the mayor's official office because, as she explained, it is easier for the people to get to me from here. And the t-shirt? A t-shirt that she wore when she declared last Friday, that she was running for governor. The t-shirt declared simply, sin miedo, without fear. Two words that easily encapsulate Yulín's life and that of the people she proudly represents, the people of Puerto Rico. Please join me in welcoming Yulín Cruz.
Thank you so much. Can you guys see me? Can you see me? This seems like I should be standing on something. First of all, thank you all so very much. I'd like to thank Dean Brown and everyone at Radcliffe Institute for the honor of speaking before you. You see, I'm the great-granddaughter of a sugarcane plantation worker, a man that didn't know how to read or write and had the sense to tell one of his daughters, my grandmother Yulín, that she was not going to work the fields, but that she was going to go to school. And she thus became the first one in her house to learn to read or write, and as the years passed, became the founding director of the School of Physical Therapy in Puerto Rico. So standing here in this great institution reminds me of her and of the struggle that she bore all her life to make sure that everyone had access to good education, the kind that uplifts the spirit, the mind, and the kind that allows men, women, children, older immigrants, or people that are just trying to do better for themselves, do exactly that. Do more than survive and thrive. But I'm going to disappoint you right off the bat. A lot of speakers have spoken today, and they are experts in the matter at hand. A lot of the colleagues, I watched you over the internet this morning. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert in anything that has to do with immigration in the legal sense of the word. What I am without a doubt, is witness to the implications on everyday life of what happens and what results when you bestow upon a group of people the label of citizen, or you take away from a group of people the label of citizen. What I am is without a doubt a person born in the duality of a nationality and a citizenship. The discussion and interpretation of this duality has been cause for many fights in Puerto Rico. Some of them are nice fights, and some of them break the dinner table. You see, I am a Puerto Rican national. I am an American citizen. But I identify myself as Puerto Rican. That means my nation is Puerto Rico. Now, I know that by mere legal standards, Puerto Rico may not be considered a nation because we are not a sovereign nation. But that does not mean that we don't live in a certain way, love in a certain way, follow certain standards and rules of conduct which are endemic and intrinsic to our culture and our language. I'm going to tell you one very little example. In English, you say, I love you. You can say, I love you to your daughter, to your husband, to your parents, to your dog. In Spanish, we say, te quiero, te amo, te aprecio, te adoro. So it doesn't mean that one language is richer than the other. It just means that one sense of expression of the people that share that language is different than another. I also want to ask you that while I speak, you think about what I'm saying not from the perspective of the colonizer, but from the perspective of the person that is living. This perspective allows us to partake in a common language, a common cultural bond, and shared values which provide and surrounds us all. In many ways, it creates a thread capable of forging, if you will, something more binding than economic and financial structure creates. Is that my friend? Yes. I told her, if the baby makes any noise, don't leave the room. Because why is it that every time a baby makes a noise, women have to leave the room? Right? No. You see, people may leave behind geography. They may come from one country to another, from one part of the country to another, from a rural area to an urban area, or from an urban area to a rural area. But when it happens cross nations, they may leave a way, but they don't leave. You know that saying, you can't take the hood out of the girl, but you can't take the girl out of the hood, or it goes the other way around. But the culture, that who we are, follows us wherever we are. And there's a certain duality that happens within people when they realize that they want to be one thing, but they are something else. The duality when society expects us to be different than what we are and to submerge ourselves in what often is called the melting pot. It's what Shakespeare would say, to be or not to be. I am the embodiment of the Puerto Rican conundrum. You see, some Puerto Ricans feel themselves as second-class citizens, for they identify themselves as Americans first. And to them, and they have every right to feel that way, no one needs condemn them for that. To them, equality will only come through statehood. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. Other Puerto Ricans, and there's at least one here in the crowd, other Puerto Ricans feel as I feel. We respect our American citizenship, but we identify ourselves as Puerto Rican nationals. We are a territory of the United States, which means We are a colony of the United States. We have even been told that we can be sold and disposed of. And though that language has come from the White House, and it has come from Congress, sold and disposed of, as if we were a mere possession and not human beings. Do not get me wrong. I admire the foundation of the way this country was put together so much that I want it for my own. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, of course, the definition expanded. Men became women. Men that were white men and were expected to be property owners became really all men and all women. But somehow having a citizenship does not really give you the right to fully participate in democracy. For when you take people's rights away, when you don't allow them access to appropriate health care or appropriate education, when it takes you longer in this country to get to college and a lot of paperwork, when we can go into a store and in 15 minutes with no background checks buy an assault rifle, you know there's something terribly wrong. And those things are a hindrance to participating in the greatest tapestry of democracy. So you see, some fellow countrymen of mine think that if they become a state, equality will be waiting for them. Now I ask my brothers and sisters of the great native nations of the United States, has that been the case? I ask my Muslims brothers and sisters, have that been the case? I ask the transgender community, has that been the case? And the LGBTQ community, has that been the case? I ask women if that has been the case. And I can ask the same thing of African Americans. Citizenship, the legality of it, does not give you equality. Equality has to be fought, has to be nurtured, has to be taken care of every day of your lives with everything you do. Equality has to do with the way we tell history. If you ask historians, Puerto Rico was discovered in 1493. The truth is we weren't discovered. The Taíno natives were there, and they called the island nation of Puerto Rico Boriquén. And you see what I said there, the island nation of Puerto Rico, is enough to make people all over Puerto Rico tell me that I'm a communist and a socialist. Yeah? It takes a little longer getting off the airport now. It takes a little more inspection of my stuff at the airport now. But that is the price that we must pay to ensure that others have the same rights that we have. Now, I ask you, when they wrote that, were they thinking only white men that are property owners will forever, ever have those unalienable rights, or aren't people in France endowed with the same unalienable rights? What about the Creator? So if you're a Muslim or you're Hindu, your Creator did not endow you with those unalienable rights? I'm Catholic. I walk around, because my mother will chastise me if I don't do this, with a rosary, especially around Lent. But that doesn't give me the right to feel that people that pray the way they want to pray need to feel less safe than I do when I pray. So we have to think about something that is terribly wrong, and I don't have it with me. Can I borrow your phone for a second? This little thing, as good as it is, it connects us all. It connects us to a larger humanity, and it connects us to a different morality. It makes us think that citizenship is not only an issue of legality, but it's an issue of morality. Because when New Zealand Muslims were killed a couple of days ago, we were able to see their prime minister embody what every public servant should be. And when a few weeks ago, or perhaps, thank you, perhaps months ago, the Jewish community in Pittsburgh also suffered the tragedy of hatred. We were all there to see it. September 20th changed my life. It changed all of our lives. Since 1952, Puerto Ricans have had a self-government, except any laws that we pass cannot be in contravention to any law that the United States has passed. We became citizens of the United States in 1917 by birth. Before that, for a very brief period of time, the Puerto Rican citizenship was acknowledged by the United States. And once 1917 came around, our citizenship was wiped out. We are citizens of the United States. We cannot vote for the President of the United States, although we vote for the primaries of Republicans and Democrats. And you say, well, that's just not fair. Is it? It depends the way you think about it. You see, if you think about it in one type of light, you will think it's not fair. This is an issue of civil rights. And if you are an American citizen, you should partake on the entire tapestry of democracy. If you think that Puerto Rico is a nation, as it is, you will say, you know what? This is not an issue of civil rights. This is a self-determination issue. So let's rewrite story and tell it like it is, something that is not difficult for me. Puerto Rico was not discovered in 1493. Puerto Rico was first invaded in 1493. Puerto Rico was invaded a second time on July 25th, 1898. And we were ceded, given to the United States as an act of war. At the time, Cuba was already fighting for their independence. In Puerto Rico, there was more of a polite and autonomous way of looking at things. We had obtained what is called, somebody translated for me, La Carta Autonómica de España, the autonomous letter for Spain. It gives us the rights that Spanish citizens had and unlimited interaction with the Spanish government. But 8 months later, boom, there comes the Spanish-American War, and we are given to the United States. In 1952, Puerto Ricans voted for their constitution. But the constitution had to be ratified by the United States, and Congress took and wiped out an entire section of it. A section that talked mainly about privacy and dignity, and the right to all to be treated the same. Now again, this is not about being anti-American. This is about understanding that Puerto Rico is a nation that should be given the right to freely determine what kind of relationship it wants with the United States. And if the majority of the people want statehood, let it be so. If the majority of the people want free association, which is what I believe in, let it be so. If the majority of the people want independence, let it be so. If the majority of the people want to enhance the current status and take it out of the territorial clause so that we are not under the total powers of Congress, let it be so, but let us decide. So I understand the NAACP. When a few weeks ago and months ago, they said, we are going to support statehood for Puerto Rico, because if you look at it from the strictest standpoint of civil rights, then you say that's the way it should go. All I'm asking is let us decide. Let American democracy truly exemplify itself in this year, in this century. Respect the people you invaded enough to let them decide what they want for their future. Because one thing has been proven beyond any shadow of a doubt. What we have is not working. It's not working for us. I told you that on September 20th, my life changed. The Puerto Rico that I knew will never be the same. The San Juan that I grew up in will never be the same. And I just met, I didn't get your name. Jean-Luc. Jean-Luc Picard. Yeah. Jean-Luc was telling me that his family is from Katrina. And why do I say it like that rather than saying from New Orleans? Because we start identifying ourselves by the pain and the sorrow that we have tried to overcome. Holyoke, Massachusetts. 60% of the population of Holyoke, Massachusetts is Puerto Rican. And about a year ago, I went to visit, and the children would come and tell me, I am from Maria. So you see, migration comes because of different things. It comes because people want to live their life the way they want to live, because people want to run from dictatorial governments, because people want to love whomever they want to, and they cannot do it because, and this country knows this better than any other, because they are looking for religious freedom. And climate change creates migration, the most devastating kind. 3.2 million Puerto Ricans live in Puerto Rico, and 5 million Puerto Ricans live in the United States. It is thought that about 300,000 undocumented immigrants live in Puerto Rico, most of them members of the Dominican Republic community. Now, when I went into office, I signed an executive order saying that no woman was going to be asked for their migratory status. Because you see, the law states that they can give birth in an emergency room, but the law does not give them the right to have prenatal care. So what do you have? You have a lot of babies that don't have the appropriate care, and then they are born, and they are born citizens. They are born citizens of a country that is a colony, out of parents that don't have the necessary paperwork. If I thought I had it difficult, that really takes it to another level. So now, any woman, no matter what, can receive prenatal care, can deliver, and can have postnatal care in the city of San Juan. We also took away the 5-year restriction that you have to wait to receive medical care. Now, is there anybody here from Mexico? I was going to ask you if you have given birth, but obviously it's not the case. Do you have a kid? No? Anybody here from another country? A woman? You have children? No. You do? Where are you from? Argentina. From Argentina. I guarantee you, what is your name? Patricia. I guarantee you that Patricia's pain when she gave birth was the same pain I felt when I gave birth 29 years ago. There's no difference. And I guarantee you that the pain of a Native American mother that wants her child to grow up and thrive is the same pain of a woman in the South Bronx that wants her children to born not having the highest asthma rates in the United States. And I guarantee you the people that lived after Katrina felt the same sorrow that we felt after the hurricane. They didn't get the help they needed. We didn't get the help we needed. And I've often been asked why. I don't know why. It could be because of administrations that are racist, that see people of color as disposable. It could be the ugly truth that people just don't care about the lives of others. And I can tell you that in the midst of darkness, all you want is for somebody to tell you your life matters. I saw people just rummaging through what was their homes with nothing but debris in front of them. I saw mothers and fathers and grandkids telling me, don't worry, Mayor, help will come. The U.S. will not let us die. This is not a political thing. It was never about politics. It was about saving our lives. And unfortunately, the current incumbent of the White House never got it. He never got it. This isn't about giving help. This is about meeting a legal imperative and a moral imperative. Because when you have put boots on the ground in another country, you have a moral imperative to help. And when you have made those people citizens of your country, you have a legal imperative to help. And then the great conundrum keeps getting even bigger. Because while the Trump administration turned his back on us, the American people were there to take care of us. 320 AFL-CIO workers got into San Juan about 2 weeks. You know, when the president was telling us that the logistics were too difficult because, as he said, and I quote, "You are an island surrounded by water, lots and lots of water, ocean water." No shit, we didn't know that until he said it. Thank you, Mr. President. And we were getting FEMA people to ask us for, I'm sorry, Mayor, how much water would you be needing? And I'm like, I'm sorry? How much water would be good enough? And you know, San Juan is the largest municipality, so we had enough water, enough food, enough medication, enough medical equipment, enough medical supplies for 2 months. I did not count on having to take care of 65 elderly homes that were not run by the municipality. I did not think that I would have to care for and help other hospitals. I did not think that I would have to care for and help other cities, but I did it, and I was harshly criticized in Puerto Rico. And which one of you would turn your backs on anybody that falls down on the street and would not say, "Are you okay?" So I did what I had to do. I'm not very big, as you can see. And my mother will be highly upset because I'm supposed to be standing behind the podium and not showing you I'm wearing sneakers right now. I swear, Mom, my shoes are in the bag. But my grandmother, who was a very courageous woman, as most women are, said to me, "Look, you're too little. So when you go to the sandbox, never start a fight. Never. But I'll tell you what. I don't know what the average age here is, but when I was growing up, we had those Aladdin lunchboxes. They were made out of metal. They were very heavy. And I don't advocate violence. I'm just telling you the story of what she told me. So she said, this is what you have to do. You have to hit them very hard once with that lunchbox. You're not going to have more than one chance. So once you hit them, you throw the lunchbox, you scream as hard as you can, and you run as fast as you can. So in the midst of all that pain and sorrow, I did what my grandmother taught me. I screamed for those that could not scream for themselves. And in the midst of all that, people were saying, don't worry, Mayor, they'll come. They promised. They're not going to let us die. A few weeks after the hurricane, it was evident that he was going to let us die. That our lives did not matter to him. That being a citizen was not enough. So I did what I could do, and I would do it again every day of my life. Because I saw the gaze looks in people's eyes because they didn't have chemotherapy or they didn't have dialysis for weeks. 3,000 of us died. 3,000 that did not open their eyes today because some decided to play politics and look good rather than doing what they were supposed to do, because they did not. They did not look at the moral imperative above the legal imperative of citizenship. And as we become citizens of the world, we must really take a look at that. We should be tearing down walls, not building walls of bigotry and discrimination. We should be putting together schools, not closing schools like we are in Puerto Rico. Because we had Hurricane Irma, September 5th, and we had Hurricane Maria, September 20th, but before that we had Hurricane Fiscal Control Board. As an act of extreme and blatant and raw colonialism, U.S. Congress empowered seven people not elected by the Puerto Rican people. Now, mind you, our democracy is marginal at best, but they're elected by the people of Puerto Rico. 7 people. And in the legislation that's called promesa, which means promise, and the only promise they have kept is to the hedge funds and to Wall Street. They have not kept their promise to the people of Puerto Rico. I was always opposed to promesa, and what was I called? A socialist and a communist. Threatening to reduce pensions. Now, the average pension in Puerto Rico is about $600 a month. Have reduced already health benefits, have reduced the amount of money that is spent on health care, are threatening to close down some of the areas of the University of Puerto Rico, have closed more than 500 schools, and they say, well, you know, it's just people are leaving. People are leaving Puerto Rico. Well, how about trying to teach children the way we're supposed to teach them? Not with 25, 35, 45 cramped in a room, but maybe between 15 and 20, which is what anyone that knows about teaching will tell you. How about treating our children that have disabilities with dignity and ensuring that they have what they need? Austerity didn't work anywhere else. What makes these 7 think it's going to work in Puerto Rico? What do they want? Our blood? What do they need? So those that believe that statehood, erroneously so, will bring them full equality, because it's not Disneyland, I can tell you that, should have a right through a process where all the voices are heard. Those that want independence, those that want free association, those that want an enhanced Commonwealth. We should all have a right. Yesterday, Congressman Yulín Soto from Florida put forth a legislation to make Puerto Rico a state without consulting the Puerto Rican people. Now, that's not American democracy. That's not the land of the free and the home of the brave. That's not the spirit that held our hands and fed us and gave us water and tended to the wounds of hundreds of loving American people that have gone to Puerto Rico to take care of us. 30,000 rooftops are still blue tarps or blue roofs. That means that in a tropical storm, 120,000 people are going to have to be taken out of harm's way. And this morning, I was watching, and I am, to my brothers and sisters from the indigenous people, I'm sorry, I don't remember. It was a reservation that has been flooded for 2 weeks. Pine Ridge, that was it. And I could hear this man pleading for the same thing that I was pleading: water, food, acknowledgement that his life and his people's lives mattered. He's a U.S. citizen, but he's also a member of his particular nation. I can tell you one thing I am an expert on. And I wish I didn't have to be. I'm an expert on seeing people struggling for gasping for air. People going to hospitals and saying, I don't have oxygen in my home, and my mother is going to die if I don't give her oxygen. And again, I will say it, I could not fathom why. Why would anybody think of us in a different way, or are we not entitled to the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Aren't we all? No matter where we come from, no matter who we love, no matter the color of our skin, no matter our religion, aren't we all, no matter where we live in the world? Isn't it more important to be a citizen of the world and have shared moral values than to not be able to participate appropriately? So we are unsettled. We are unhinged. But we are not without any hope. What I did see was that when people need to come together, nobody has to write a memo. Nobody asks for the number of gallons. Operation Blessing, a non-governmental organization out of Pat Robertson's organization, just knocked on my door literally and said, we're from Operation Blessing and we're here to help. Oxfam, private institutions, the city of Boston, the city of New York, Mayor Bill de Blasio sent crew after crew after crew of people from emergency management system. Because we were citizens? No. Because we were humans. Because we were in need. And because we have a shared commonality and an understanding that when people are in pain, you take care of them. I was listening to you speak this morning about Paris. The world is filled with different experiments of democracy. Libertad, igualdad, fraternidad. You can say it in French. What is it? Liberté, égalité, fraternité. Sounds eerily similar to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Have you ever met a young boy or a young girl that says, when I grow up, I want to be a prostitute? No. When I grow up, I want to lead a life of crime. No. Children are children. They're children, if they have walked thousands of miles to come to the border to a country they were told will open her arms to them. This is a great nation. This is a great nation. And there is no duplicity in what I'm saying. I want more sovereign powers for my nation in association with your nation. Because the bonds that bring us together are so much stronger than the bonds that may set us apart. I'll tell you this one last thing. Yesterday, President Trump mentioned my name again as he was walking to get on his helicopter. I'm right here. He can have at me all he wants, but I will never stop fighting for injustice. I will never stop fighting for the eradication of poverty. 1.3 million Puerto Ricans, 1.3 million out of 3.2 million receive some sort of nutritional assistance to put food on the table. And out of that, 45% are elderly, disabled adults, and children. It makes perfect sense to make sure that the economy in Puerto Rico is not subdued to the American economy. I don't know how many of you know this, but we cannot buy things from the countries that you buy things. There's this little thing called the Jones Act that says that we have to buy everything through American ships. And because we are an island, I couldn't believe when I heard it. And then it became a skit on Saturday Night Live, and it was. So this is what happens. At one point, we produced 13 out of the most used 21 drugs in the world, prescription drugs. But we would package them, put them in boxes, ship them to the US, and then repatriate them. And the people that were responsible for making them could not afford them. Today, could not. They cannot afford them. And we see this at the drugstore every day. An old person, an elderly person. We call them viejitas. It's a term of endearing. Talking to the drugstore pharmacist and saying, Nena, I have $20. How much of the heart medication for the month will that buy me? And the pharmacist says, Abuela, that will only get you a week's worth. So it is our responsibility, all of us, to make sure that that stops. Because what once was the promise of help turned very quickly into the following words, Alcaldesa, they're not coming. They're not coming. It makes you mad. Because it isn't that he couldn't, it's that he wouldn't. But then you understand that there are others that come to your help. And you understand that there are others that understand. And you understand that there's a shared humanity that goes beyond, and even those that want to sow hate and division are crushed by little kids that just have a lunchbox in their hand. I didn't do what I did to be brave. I did it because I had to. Because I was tired of seeing the people that I love and care for die. We can change the world. We can change our neighborhoods. We can do it together. We don't have to be at each other's throats. This isn't an issue of being anti-American. This is an issue of ensuring that the light the beacon of light that this country has been for hundreds of years, shines bright. Not because others are subdued, but because others are given the freedom to decide. That is the American way. That is what we can accomplish together. And it doesn't matter if you're in France, it doesn't matter if you're in Turkey, it doesn't matter if you're in Argentina, it doesn't matter if you are in New Orleans. We all deserve to have a better life. We all want to hear these words. Ellen DeGeneres sent me the best tweet ever. She said, Mayor, I see you, I hear you, I love you. Let's see each other. Let's hear each other. Let's love each other. Let not people die senseless deaths. Not only did they die, but then the president tried to rob us and deny us of the right to feel that pain. And he said yesterday, 91 billion have been given to Puerto Rico. That is just not true. 91 billion is what it seems like it's going to take to get it done. It's not about the money. It's not about politics. It's not about Republicans or Democrats. It's about a common and shared humanity, a common and shared goal of changing the world to make it a better place. We can do it together. I just want to finish by thanking anybody and everybody that didn't look the other way. Because even though you may have not known it, if you send a bottle of water to Puerto Rico, you saved a life. I'm not good at starting fights. That's not my good suit. But I am my grandmother's granddaughter. And for as long as I live, I'll hit as hard as I can. I'll scream as loud as I can. And I will run as fast as I can because I am still fearful that from wherever she may be, she will look at me and say, don't ever, ever start a fight, but never, never stop until you have finished one. Let's change the world together. We can do it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Now it's time for Q&A. So we have a microphone there. I'm going to ask that you observe the same Ken Mack, Phil Deloria rules that we laid out earlier, namely that you ask a question respectfully to our wonderful guest and speaker, and save time for those in the queue behind you so we can get a variety of voices in.
Thank you for coming. My name is Julia Carpenter, and you mentioned something called the Jones Act. Mm-hmm. I have never heard of that before. I'm hoping that you'll tell us more about it.
Yeah, sure. Where are you from, Julia?
Originally, or?
Yeah.
Rochester, New York.
Rochester, New York. So the part of the issue with Puerto Rico, as you know, is that it is the smallest of the largest Antilles. So we are very well positioned for the Cold War. So in the Cold War, any ships like, the Cuban Missile Crisis, they were expected to be halted. We also were used for many years, the small municipal island of Vieques and Culebra were used for many years by the Navy, and they would literally shoot and throw bombs in live civilian population at the beaches there. Agent Orange was tried in Puerto Rico. The contraceptive pill was tried in Puerto Rico. But the Jones Act is part of using finances as a colonial domination tool. So it says that any ship that goes into Puerto Rico first, let's say they come from Spain, goes to Puerto Rico first, cannot come into the United States. So what they do is that they force us to use only ships which are US flagged ships. That, a lot of studies have come out and say that between 130% and 151% increase in the cost of living in Puerto Rico because of that. Now, not only does that have an issue with, and what I'll do is I'll send the Radcliffe Institute the threads and the links for these studies that have just been released. But one of the things that is also important is that during a hurricane, because that's the divine mercy, that's my mi única devoción. During the storm, because there was Harvey, and because there were other really climate change related disasters, there was not enough lampposts or generators in the United States. So you would think that we could buy them from the same countries that the US buys them. We weren't allowed to do that. So consequently, about 60 to 70% of the Puerto Rican population went without electricity for 1 year. In San Juan, we were lucky. I lived in a shelter for 4 months, and San Juan got about between 4 and 6 months. By the end of 6 months, everybody had electricity. Now, we didn't want electricity to take warm showers or have air conditioning. We wanted it so that doctors did not have to operate with the light on their cell phone. That's what we wanted electricity for. So the Jones Act takes a number of ships. It's not the entire US merchant marine fleet, and forces us to only use US ships, which in a way it increases. Funny enough, President Trump waived the Jones Act for 7 days during the aftermath of Irma and 10 days during the aftermath of Maria. No ships came from anywhere because it was too small of a time frame for them to be able to work. But USVI doesn't have the Jones Act. Now, when we say, look, we need to repeal the Jones Act, or at least put Puerto Rico on a path to repealing the Jones Act, we are told it has to do with an issue of national security. But what about USVI? You have to go through USVI to come to Puerto Rico. So it isn't an issue of national security. It is an issue of financial domination. But I have to thank our maritime brothers and sisters, which at least have told us that they're willing to sit down and start talking about this. And from a very bold no to a let's sit down and start talking about this, it is a step in the right direction, but it would certainly help Puerto Rico if we were not subjected to that. Hi.
Hi, Ricardo Cortez, and gracias. Your incredible presentation, powerful presentation.
Thank you.
And you indicated you are an American citizen. Would you ever consider for running for president of the United States?
I can't, because I was born in a territory or in a colony. However, my daughter was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So my daughter could run, but she's not at all interested in politics. Somebody is selling T-shirts in the web saying, Carmen Yulín for president, nasty for the people. Because, the president told me that I had been nasty to him. There's a lot of things I could have been. Yes, hi.
Hi, my name is George Angel Barreras. I'm here on behalf of Sociedad Latina. We're a nonprofit that serves the ESL students here in Massachusetts, in the city of Boston.
What is that?